Hi, hello, aloha school. It's Mrs. Kazana in the art room. Here is my collage from day one. I wanted to show you what I can do to take this collage from interesting to really amazing by working on it for a second time, adding more layers. So I already have a composition that I like. But I'm noticing as I look at it that I don't have very much variation in these blue areas, and I don't have a lot of variation in these brown areas. These ones I just used regular construction paper for. These ones I used painted paper, so already they're a little more alive and interesting to look at. So something that I would like to do as I continue working is to add some more variation to these plain brown areas. And maybe I'm going to add a little more variation to these blue areas. And we'll see what else kind of becomes interesting as we go along. So I have my oil pastels here. And I kind of like to start with a color that's not too different from the one that I already have down. Just because then I can do some blending. I'm just going to do some quick zigzags. Patterns here, kind of scritching and scratching that in. I don't need it to be perfect because I'm just going to see, well, already that looks a little bit more interesting, a little bit more alive, a little more vibrant. I'm going to add a little white. I don't know that I like that. It made it a little whiter than I wanted, so I'm going to go back over with the brown. Oh, and now I quite like that. It looks like more like a paintbrush stroke and less like just a piece of torn construction paper, which is the look that I'm going for. I want it to look more like an Alma Thomas painting and less like I just glued construction paper down. I want it to be a little bit more complex, a little bit richer, a little bit more interesting. Now I'm using some yellow on top. I'm not worrying about if it's perfect or not. I'm just having fun watching how the colors interact with each other. Another fun technique I can do when I'm layering oil pastels is I can use a scratching tool to remove color that I don't want. So right here I have a pencil that has no lid on it or no eraser on it. I could also use kind of whatever's at hand. I could use the edge of this Sharpie. I just have the lid off of it. I'm going to just try the end of this. And I'm scratching away some of the oil pastel. And you can see I'm getting some interesting texture on my piece. I'm going to move my document cam a little closer so you can really see this area that I'm working on. As I move my pencil across the page, I'm picking up little pieces of the oil pastel. And I'm removing them from my painting so that I get a more interesting effect. And already look how much more alive and interesting my painting is than if I had just left those plain brown areas on my painting. So these are some techniques you can try and experiment with. If you decide, oh, I don't really like that, the cool thing about oil pastels is you can cover it right back up again. You can always apply the color right back on to your painting. The other thing I noticed when I looked at my painting at the beginning was I thought it might be cool to add a little bit more variation here. I thought it might be fun to make some of these kind of pop out a little bit, maybe adding a little bit more green to them. Love putting oil pastel over papers because it makes them just sing a little bit more. If we leave them exactly the way they are when they first come off the page, they're just a little bit more muted and flat. But when we put on layers and washes of color, we can make things really start to come alive. So the differences are subtle, but they're definitely there. And one of the reasons that I encourage us to kind of stay quiet and focused when we're working in the art room is because you need to be paying attention to what you're doing in order to get beautiful results. If you're busy talking with your friends, you'll have a good conversation, but you might not make an art piece that's as beautiful and as interesting as it could be if you gave it your attention. It's kind of hard to talk and make something interesting at the same time. So see what it's like to just give your total focus and attention to this process and see if you can make something you feel really proud of. Have fun, make something beautiful.